Okay, now I'm so excited to introduce Adriana Blanco. She's a friend of mine. We go way back. She's the director of the North Carolina Brazilian Arts Project. And I mean, she just exudes world-leadiness because she really took her passion for Afro-Brazilian culture and took it to the next level, getting our city, getting our state, and even beyond that, world wit, and sharing the culture of Brazil continuously learning and sharing with others, which I think is such a beautiful thing. We're going to learn about her story today, and she's even going to give us a samba class, a little samba dance lesson to the music of Grupo Fala Comigo, who's coming up next. But please check this out and join us for the samba lesson.
Hello, shout out World Lit. My name is Adriana Blanco. I'm so happy to be here. I am one of the founders and one of the directors of the North Carolina Brazilian Arts Project. We are an organization of a bunch of folks that are really interested in African Brazilian movement culture and history, specifically capoeira, maculele, and samba, and different types of samba, and other types of African Brazilian dance too. I'm also a social worker, clinical social worker. I specialize in working with adolescents and femme-identified people and families. And I work with a lot of folks that have experienced different types of trauma throughout their lives. And I'm also a yoga teacher. World Lit to me, first of all, is really exciting. But I think the thing that stands out for me the most that I've noticed about you and the folks that you interview and that you interact with is that you don't always have to go to LA, you don't have to go to New York, you can make a diverse and profound arts and culture scene wherever you're at, because we all deserve to have that. We all deserve to have people that are really passionate about their art and their culture and sharing it with others with love and with responsibility and with innovation and creativity. And I think that you highlight people like that. It gives me hope that, like, yeah, you know, you can have an exciting, enriched life no matter where you live. You just have to look a little harder. I was born in Durham, North Carolina, raised in Chapel Hill, and went to college in DC. Moved to Charlotte because of the capoeira community here in Charlotte. Yeah, and I also met my husband here, but it was capoeira first, for sure. My dad is from Dallas, Texas, and he's a flamenco guitar player. And he, in college, moved to Spain, and he met my mom, who is Spanish. She passed away when I was really young. And I come from a long line of storytellers and artists and poets and total theater geeks. Yeah, so actors from a small village in Andalusia is where my mom's side of the family is from. Lots of influence from the playwright and the poet Federico García Lorca, who was a really important figure you know, of the Spanish resistance during the nationalist period in Europe in the 30s. So there's a lot of like familial connections there. I'm not related to him, but my mom was close to members of his family. So I'm a Carolina girl, you know, born in North Carolina, and I consider myself, I guess, like multicultural, bicultural, bilingual, trilingual actually, but Spanish was my first language. This is not my specialty or anything, but folks and other therapists and clinicians, you know, that are colleagues of mine talk about, like, you know, racial identity work or like just identity work in general. A lot of that was happening for me in college, for sure, because I was like finally surrounded by like a lot of diverse folks. Like growing up in Chapel Hill, that was like not necessarily what was going on. And I was really seeking that when I decided to go to school in DC. I went to the George Washington University, and I wanted specifically to study international affairs because I was like, I need to be out. I need to like see the world. I need to understand the world. And so I, you know, was so thankful to already speak Spanish, and so I just started signing up for Portuguese classes because I was like, okay, I'm going to do this Latin American studies thing. I want to learn more about like, you know, colonization, the transatlantic slave trade, and just like all of the things that happen in history that have just shaped this world that we live in. It was just very interesting to me, and so I was just like studying Portuguese, and then I just decided to study abroad. And my roommate Carla and I were like, yeah, let's study abroad. We were like, let's just go to Brazil. And it really just happened for me there, you know. I found out about capoeira there. I started training the African-Brazilian martial art of capoeira. And then from there, in the capoeira rodas, or after that capoeira rodas, there would always be samba de rodas, like a circle of samba. And I was just mesmerized by it. But even before then, before I even like really understood what samba was, the first month of our study abroad like experience, we were actually in Sao Paulo, because I studied abroad in Salvador. We were in Sao Paulo for a month doing like really intensive language program, and they took us out and they took us to some club, some like nightclub, like theater venue, and we saw Teresa Cristina, who is like one of my now, like looking back on it, I'm like, wow, how lucky was I? One of the most amazing samba artists. Like her voice, it was just incredible. I remember being there. I remember people dancing to it, and just they were so free, you know, and the music just had this swing, and it was the percussion, like the drum was like in my belly, you know. And I think looking back on it now, it must have been the tan-tan that I was listening to that I was like, oh, and it just like, I don't know how to explain it. I was not happy. I was actually miserable because I didn't know how to connect to it. I wanted to, but I didn't know how to participate. I wanted to be in there, but really I was just like, like all this energy, you know, everywhere, and I had nowhere to put it. I had no vocabulary to let it out. I had really generous, like, capoeiristas. Her name was Sambadeira. That was her capoeira name. I don't know her actual name. I've been trying to find out what it is. She would teach me, going out in Pelourinho and going to these just like samba rodas that they would have, these pagodes, and it's just like you start to feel it, and it sort of comes. Obviously I was a mess, but I felt it. It was weird. It's like my body felt it before I really understood the technique. And then, you know, capoeira events, they would always have like one samba teacher, so I would try to drink it up. But there weren't that many samba teachers around in the United States. Just really weren't. There was Sonia Pessoa in Washington, D.C., and she was wonderful. And so I learned some with her. And then when I moved to North Carolina from D.C., I was like, that's it. Like my samba dream, like I have no idea. No one can like really, really like break this down for me anymore. I just have to keep practicing and figuring out what I can. And then there was a teacher at 9th Street Dance in Durham, and I'm blanking on her name, but she was great. She was sort of like, she was teaching it, and I took the class because I was always like looking for it. And then Ia Silva, now Ia Campbell, just out of nowhere shows up in her class in Durham. And I just remember my friend Mackie and I were like, oh, who is this woman? Oh my gosh. She was wearing yellow, and she had also a yellow flower in her hair, and she was just like all throughout the room, and it was just incredible. And then, you know, we just talked to her, got to know her, and she started teaching classes too. I took every class I could possibly ever take. I just followed her everywhere. And she was commuting from Charlotte to Durham, but then moved to Durham for a while and moved back to Charlotte. I just followed her. And then started dancing with her company, Movimento de Samba, which is, you know, how we know each other. And she was really the one who really got me going and brought out that like that sort of performance, that need for performance that I've always had, you know, as a child. I think capoeira was satisfying that to a certain extent. That I never really understood this about myself, but yes, I do like to perform. I like to create, I like to perform, and I like people to see it. And that's something that you know, it's kind of hard to, you know, you feel kind of like, oh God, you know, like who am I to say like I want to perform and I want people to see it. But that desire, I've had to honor that, and Ia helped me hone that. And and I followed her around until she decided to you know, focus on other things and no longer continue with her company. And I was like, I feel like I'm just getting started. So this is a super complicated question, I think, because I have to start off by saying that, you know, I started off and I continue to be a capoeirista. So that was really my love. That was my calling, that martial art. Samba was always, as I first experienced it, was like the afterwards, right? It was like after the capoeira. And it was just a way to like let loose and be in community. And something about that, because I love being around people, I love getting to know people, I love making friends. It was just such an amazing way to make friends, and that's why I think I got really serious about Samba, because I got really serious about my friends. I got really serious about learning, and the more you learn about Samba and Capoeira, because the two are so connected, it's like your life is so enriched, because you just learn about history, you learn about how the world works, you learn about how people survived oppression, you learn about how people oppressed, and how it kind of looks the same, you know, throughout the world. And it was just this like really cohesive human experience. And then the music, I mean, I think that just like goes without saying, like that first experience, nothing makes me want to move more. I would say one of my proudest moment, without a doubt, is that I believe that I have created a class space where people can show up, not have any experience, even in dance, and they can walk out of there after like 6 months, because Samba takes a while, and they can really dance, and it opens up their world to dance, because that's what Samba did for me. I mean, Capoeira showed me that I can do anything with my body if you just train it, and it showed me that I have a natural sense of rhythm and connection. And then Samba really brought out my creativity and my sensuality and my inner like femininity, you know, that I think I've never really connected very fully to. And so if I can provide, and I believe that I have for some people, if I can provide that space for others in a safe and inclusive way, that's my biggest achievement. What's given me the capacity to do that are some of the studies that I have engaged in that have given me a few titles, such as Passista for Samba school, for a Serie A school. So for the listeners or viewers who don't know what a Passista is, they're part of the carnival in Rio or in São Paulo, that they represent the danced aspect of Samba. And so usually it's just members of the community that are allotted that privilege to dance Samba during the parade and also be a representative of the school. And so I auditioned and I received that position. And I also now this year, and you have to pay for it too, it's complicated. You know, it's not like I'm all that. A lot of people are passistas too. But I am proud of that achievement. And I'm also a musa for another school. So this year in Carnival, I'll be parading as a musa, which is a kind of a grander title. It's more of a performance. There's more spotlight on you, and you are definitely, your face is a recognizable representation of the school as a musa. So of course you have to pay for that too to support the Samba school. But you know, I am proud of that because it's scary. I've really put myself out there to do that. And I'm proud of the relationships that I've created with my teachers that have afforded their confidence in me to give me the opportunity to audition and the opportunity to have those titles. I would say that it is not always welcoming and warm, and I don't think it should be, right? Because it's like such a treasure. It's their culture, it's their mode of surviving and spreading joy, and just their way of living, like breathing. And so, yeah, it's tense, right? Because people from outside of Brazil come and, right, we train super hard because we have the privilege to train super hard. So yeah, we show up and I'm looking super awesome because, like, you know, I've been taking modern dance classes on the side because I can, so my toe point and my lines are, you know, all that. But I haven't lived through that struggle, or I haven't grown up with that history. And so when you show up and you are occupying space in their school and their community centers, there is tension sometimes, and as it should be. But usually it's really easy to break through that tension with relationships, you know, with communicating and talking. And I'm grateful for my Portuguese because that's what's given me, you know, I think that capacity to be able to take it a step further. And then there's this mutual respect and admiration that happens. I would say probably one of the most like world lit moments that I had was before I decided to move here. I came to check out Mestre Esquilo from International Capoeira School, who's now my Mestre. I was in grad school at the time, or finishing up grad school in Chapel Hill, and I drove to Charlotte. I'd never been to Charlotte. Like, grew up from North Carolina, never been to Charlotte. And I was at the Friday night after party at my friend Shane's house. His wife was like, "You brought all these people here," and it was all these capoeiristas, and this always happens at capoeira events. Like there's like the after party is lit, so fun. I was like in a trance state. There were so many capoeiristas. Mestre Esquilo was there, who was basically like an iPod with like how many songs he knows and can sing, and he was just singing. People were playing on the chairs, on the plastic chairs. There were Heineken bottles and knives. There was like the whole night, it was just non-stop singing, and I think I must have danced for like 5 hours straight, and that's when I met my husband, but I didn't pay attention to him that night. But that was a really amazing night because I was in my flow state. You know, Ia had given me the tools, I could finally use them, and it was happening in North Carolina. It was amazing.